Guys, intro time.
Wait, which intro?
The wisdom check.
Oh, good.
Wait, no. I thought we were keeping the old intro. What's wrong with the old one? People like that one.
It was too long.
Yeah.
Too many fucking gifs.
Yeah.
But can we keep the part where I yell more?
No.
But it's the intro to end all intros.
I got like what? 2 lines last time?
Do you want more lines, Tim?
Well, no, not really.
In a world without answers.
Yeah.
Wait, do you want to start with that?
Here we go, exactly like last time.
Wait, okay, so we're doing it the exact same way? Let's start with the smoky bar.
No, it's a new season. We have to have a new intro.
More.
Not sure why we thought this would go any differently.
Oh, well. Welcome, everyone, to the Wisdom Check, where Jeff and Dustin welcome a guest every week to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Welcome.
This is ridiculous. I'm starting the stream now.
Wait, where's my die at? Well, we can't start until I botch, and it's not an intro unless I'm botching.
You're on.
All right, and we should be on. So welcome, everyone.
All right, welcome everybody to the Wisdom Check. I am Dustin. With me across the screen, where he's usually positioned, is Jeff. Say hello, Jeff.
Hey. How's it going, everyone?
And tonight, in the seat of honor, we have with us Adam from Friends Who Roll Dice. Adam, say hello to the crowd.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Air Laser already talking about how much he loves your plants that you have back there. You have.
Yeah, this one is actually doing really well, and
Looks like it.
I honestly am not doing that much work, so it's great.
Those are the best kind of plants. Yeah, you're all worried about the background. We already got compliments. That's great. Yeah, fantastic. So let's kind of dive into things a little bit here. Obviously, we got some plants rolling on there. We got some cool stuff in the background. So we like to kind of dive in right off the bat with some like the usual softball stuff, with asking a little bit about what your history is with gaming, how you came into the hobby, and what your kind of first games were like.
Well, thanks for having me. Let's start off there.
Absolutely.
I think my first D&D experience was I used to volunteer at a comedy club.
Oh, nice.
And I ran their tech, which was a lot more stressful than I thought it would be. But met some great people, and then one day somebody's like, "Hey," one of the improvisers was like, "Hey, we're gonna play D&D. Do you want to play?" I said, "Sure." And I went, and the first game was kind of a dungeon crawl, and it was tons of fun, and I fell in love instantly and bought my first of many dice sets shortly after. Yeah. And then from there, that game kind of broke up, and I needed a D&D fix, so I went online, and I think I joined a couple of Discord servers, played a few one-shots, and decided I was going to run a game for my friends, so I was going to hack Tomb of Annihilation.
Okay.
And so I looked at podcasts, and Dadbod had run one, so I started listening to that, and then I joined their community, got in a one-shot with them, and then this is how I got here.
Wow, that's wild.
That's where we are now.
Well,
Now, how long ago was this when you got started?
I want to say 4 years ago, so I'm relatively green, I guess.
Well, there's a lot of gaming that goes on in those 4 years, I'm sure. And doesn't matter when you get into it.
When you said your first game was like a dungeon crawl, were the other players big role players, or were they the X's and O's? Was everything just strategy and map and combat, or did you get a lot of other stuff in there too?
I mean, I joined kind of mid campaign, and I think we were in some sort of wizard tower, and we were just getting into a lot of fights. But so there wasn't a ton of RP, just because we kept going encounter after encounter after encounter. But yeah, I don't know. It was a lot of fun, and I think we had to kill a couple people their characters, not them, actually.
Wait a minute. So you killed a fellow PC?
Yeah, one guy, he like got kind of flaky, and so we're just like, hey, we'll just kill him off in the dungeon. It's fine.
That's one way to write off an absentee player.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And then another player, he was the type that like wanted to tell someone else how to like play the game. And we're like, okay, it's not a great fit. Sorry.
It's cutthroat D&D.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Man.
But yeah, so it was an interesting, I guess, intro to the game.
So what was it about the game though that kind of hooked you? Because I can say from watching your guys' stream, that's not really the style that you run. So how did you get? What was it about that first game that hooked you about it then?
I mean, we had a lot of laughs going on because, like, outside of the encounters, like, I mean, I was just playing with all improvisers, so you know, it was just jokes and bits the whole time. And I was like, oh, this is fun. We can tell a story and just goof off.
Nice.
So that's, yeah.
So it was a social outing then. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were saying this was at a comedy club. You were working at a comedy club, is that right? Or are you working, like, do you do comedy? Or is that just you're working the tech side of things?
I did some improvising. I, like, did a little bit of stand-up, but it terrified me, so I was like, that's not for me. But right now, I, like, write comedy, so I've been in the comedic realm some way or another.
That's really cool. I mean, because that's definitely a skill set. You know, like humor plays a big part in games. You know, just shooting the shit, having a good time around the table. But I think that improvising skill set is just like huge for having a successful game. You know, like you can obviously do a dungeon crawl, you know, without having that skill set. But I think, you know, TTRPGs as a format kind of lends itself to developing those skills down the road. You know, once you finally get good at it. Like, do you think they give you a leg up?
I mean, I don't know if it's a leg up. I'm definitely like more comfortable even with if I'm playing with new people. So I guess that's probably helped a lot. Because then you don't have to be like awkward. I don't know this person, so I'm just gonna like shyly play.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's safe to say that something like comedy helps bring new players in. Because if they're laughing, like you were, like you said, when your first game, like you were laughing, you're having a good time, like it helps break people into the social circle when they can be having a good time while they're trying to play. Because they're not going to know all the rules. They're not going to know probably who their character is the first time at the bat. But if you can make them laugh and have a good time, it makes it eases them up a bit. Do you find that to be mostly true?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, shit, I've been playing for 4 years. I'm still looking up rules, so it's like there's always going to be that aspect of the game where it's like, all right, fuck, can this rogue do a sneak attack? I don't know. I've never played a rogue. Yeah, sure, maybe.
Well, with 5e, the answer is typically yes.
Yeah.
Like it used to be. Rogues got a little more freedom to just kind of do what they want to anymore. So the rules are definitely a little easier.
Yeah,
maybe a broken class. It's so sometimes just very, very powerful.
Can be. Depends on who you ask, I guess. So we have a player who played a rogue, didn't like it. So I don't know. But yeah, that's a good class. I like it.
My first character was a ranger, and I quickly found out that I hated the class.
Yeah, you started at the bottom of the 5th edition totem pole, apparently.
You played Ranger in the wrong edition. You go back a couple editions, Rangers were hella good. 5th edition, they not
so much.
Yeah.
I had like 3 spells. I'm like, I can't do anything.
yeah. And you shoot your bow again. And you shoot your bow again.
Yeah, Crazy Ike re-upping his subscription there. 20 months.
20 months in a row on the sub. Thank you
much. Absolutely. So, you were saying you got started 4 years ago, and that first game was more of a dungeon crawl. Was it also a 5th edition, or was this an older edition dungeon crawl?
It was 5th edition. I think I'm fairly certain it was just like a homebrew setting, as I think the GM had been playing for, I don't know, a decade or so. So I'm assuming that was like something of his creation.
Yeah, it feels like that's I don't know. We thought that was kind of more the norm when we were kind of coming up because we always did homebrew. But, the more we kind of reach out and meeting more people, it seems like we're the oddballs out, doing a lot of homebrew stuff. So it's interesting hearing other people kind of coming at it from that perspective as well. Like when you were running games, you said you were going to the Tomb of Annihilation. How long until you started kind of writing your own stuff?
I mean, pretty much right off the bat, I was actually just using bits of the tomb as kind of a starting point. And I don't know, wanted something concrete that it'd be like that I could draw from. But I mean, within like 2 sessions, maybe I was like, all right, let's throw the book over my shoulder.
You just can't live inside the box, right? You just gotta. It's hard to do. Like, it's hard. In my opinion, it is harder to run a module than it is write my own material. Like, that's just me, though.
Well, yeah, because I just would forget too many things. It's like, oh, this one person that they talked to 3 years ago is very important, and fuck, that's the linchpin in the whole thing. So I don't know if I could cuss. I just
go for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
We say stuff in the intro, so you're good to go. That's why we're up late. But yeah, that was kind of an interesting one because, like I said, we typically don't do modules, but I ran one recently, and you're right. It does feel a little strange because you kind of feel kind of hedged in by what's written there. Like you almost feel like you need to kind of stick to it, even though you want to kind of like branch out and just kind of like roll with the scene as it kind of goes, kind of cater to your players a little bit more. And like, I don't know, it feels like the homebrew is just like a license, just to be like, I know my people. They're going to be like this. This is what they're going to get into. Let's go that way,
Yeah, and I picked up Waterdeep Dragon Heist because so this is probably really dumb of me for my first GMing session or campaign. I hacked 5e to be like space.
Oh, wow.
And then I was like, all right, so we're going to be on this massive colony ship, and I can use Waterdeep because that's like a city, and the scope's probably about the same. So I'll just like kind of casually do that, and I don't know, it was a little bit of a disaster, but everybody's having fun, so that's kind of all that matters.
So you ran Dragon Heist in space.
Yeah.
Wow. So was it like a Spelljammer kind of space, or was it like space, like sci-fi?
It was a mix of both.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do like hard sci-fi where it's like, all right, you need like suits and everything. It's like, all right, you're actually on a boat, and for whatever reason, you can breathe the atmosphere. That's fine.
That's interesting because Dragon Heist is an interesting module to pick for that. Because I mean, first off, it's like 4 modules in one, depending on which season you run.
Yeah,
and then you also get like a building that your group gets to like make their own. So how'd you deal with that on a ship? You just you already had a ship that's kind of your own, right? So did you just run off of that and just let them go to town?
We pretty much quickly got away from the Dragon Heist story because of all of that. I was like, this just
wasn't going to work as well as you thought, huh?
Yeah. So I think I just gave them random missions where they're like, we did a runaway train in space that went to like a mining asteroid belt, and I don't know. It was a lot of like, we have this large city, but you can go and do kind of whatever you want outside if you need to. Yeah.
Nice.
So definitely run a little more like a Star Trek-ish style of game. Big city, skyscraper size ship that everyone's flying around in.
But yeah, and I'm trying to see it. That was the first. So one of my players hit on me, and that was the first time that I had to do like a fade to black.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
And I was like, I don't know. Do we describe this? How do we do this? Like, you know what?
Curtains.
We can just,
Curtains.
Yeah, that's an interesting one when it comes up. When there hasn't been a pre-conversation about it at all, it just hits you in the moment. You're just like, oh boy.
That's why those session zeros are important. The lines and veils.
Yep. Yeah, we ran into that pretty young. Like when we were in high school, one of my players did that with me, and I was like, no, I'm good with just cutting the scene, like right here. We'll just say stuff happened. He was pretty insistent on running the scene. I'm like, did like 3 lines back to back. I was like, I'm done.
And you're like, Brad, why? Why are we doing this?
I'm pretty sure we have some friends that their whole goal is to make things as awkward as they can.
Oh,
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a few of those players that would do those sorts of things just to get the reaction sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah, that was definitely a little bit of that, as we actually made one of our other players more uncomfortable. Like my roommate now, he's just like, can we not? Wait.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's one of those things you don't really expect to run into. But yeah, I mean, there are, I guess, gaming groups that are into doing that stuff, and that's like their meat and potatoes of their game sessions. So more power to them. I can't do it. It just doesn't work for me. But yeah, man, that's fascinating. So like in terms of like gaming though, you started getting into the online scene. You were talking about being on Discords and finding the community up there pretty quickly. How quickly did you go into streaming your content?
I think I want to say I did 2 one-shots with Featherfall.
Mm-hmm.
And this would probably be like 6 to 8 months after I started playing online games.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was contacted by, I think Chris is like, hey, we're going to do another campaign. We've got a part of group. Would you want to be in it? And then I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds like a great time. Then we get to the messaging. It's like, all right, who wants to run the game? And then I think maybe like 2 days had gone by, like no one had responded, and I was like, I'll run it. Fuck it, let's go.
So you at least volunteered then. You weren't voluntold. You volunteered, right?
Yeah, I volunteered. I was like, you know what? I just want to play. Let's do it. I'll figure out something here.
That's fun.
And you had a lot of GM experience before that. You talked about being a player. Had you GM prior to that?
I had one campaign that had been going on for like 3 months, maybe, and we met like typically every week. Sometimes every other week because scheduling is the hardest part of D&D.
CR25.
But yeah, so I think I maybe had like 12 sessions under my belt.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I thought you'd seem like you're a fairly experienced GM when you first started The Gods We Know.
Thank you.
I thought you did a fantastic job with this. I thought you probably had some experience.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, like I recently started doing stuff online, and like the first thing it kind of hit me was the fact that it's online. People are going to be watching this well after I've, had my session. It's going to be out on YouTube forever. You're starting to see feedback, like comments and things. You're like, oh my God, like I'm going to get feedback on this for years.
We're actually doing a thing here.
Did you miss this rule? I'm like, yeah, I did. Yeah, that's true. Thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate that.
I think for the most part, the 5e community is far more forgiving on that than maybe some other game systems communities.
Yeah,
I don't see the flack on 5e videos like I do on maybe some others.
I mean, I don't know. I think some like Critical Role fans would probably beg to differ.
Yeah. Well, no, I think if you're playing, a Wellmont. If you're in that campaign setting, you gotta stick to it, right? But
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I'm pretty loose with rules. I mean, as long as it's not breaking the thing, like you can bend it a little bit. And for the most part, I think it's just for time concerns. It's like I don't care to we have a show. We're live. Does anybody want to watch us look up this rule for 5 minutes?
Exactly. And that's a weird moment in a game. Like you're like, I know I need to look this up, but I know pacing wise, this is never gonna fly. Let's just go.
Piles of bookmarks for things I think I might need when I'm running Zweihander. I got everything bookmarked, and then the players always find something that I don't know, and I'm like, crap, hold on, Give me just a second.
Every time.
It's right here. I know I got it here. Hold on. So,
Player's superpower right there.
I have to make up little monikers to remind me on what page certain things are, just for quick reference purposes. So.
Yeah, that's one thing where I think I'm a lot more lazy in the GM aspect, because, I mean, I had 2 monks in the party, a rogue, and a cleric, and I constantly just never knew what the hell the monks or rogues could do. I was like, all right, yeah, that sounds right. Let's.
Well, yeah, with monks of the key powers and stuff.
If you say so, yes, that's what you do. That's cool, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at a certain point, it's like, I mean, if you're going to cheat, I guess go for it. Like,
yeah. I think it's the difference of being an adult now starting, as opposed to like when we started, we were in like, high school, junior high. So like a lot of people were cheating a lot. It was like you're rolling dice, bumping the ground, making the die flip over. Oh, isn't that 20? And you're like, oh, come on.
You rolled 7 nat 20s this session. What is going on over there?
Yeah, the character rolls in. I've got like 4 18s, but I also have 2 14s. Like, mm-hmm. You rolled it on your own in the back room? Okay. All right.
You have 50 HP at level 2? What?
Yeah.
Do you find yourself going back, though, if there's rules that you don't know at the time, you find yourself going back between sessions and looking them up, being like, okay, I got to know how Fury Blows works. I didn't know, so I'm going to go back and look. And that way I'll know next game. Do you find yourself doing the research?
Sometimes, like, if it really, like, sticks to my crawl, I'll go check it out. But other times, like, I guess it depends on the moment. Like, do we want to retcon something or not really? Like, there was a moment where, the Corey had catchment on the big bad prior to like the final fight, and I'd forgotten about range, and like the big bad was like 100 feet away, and I think the range on that spell was like 30 feet. But it was a cooler moment to just let it happen because he had failed and the counter spell had failed from his party. And I was like, you know what? Whatever. Let's just go.
Wow.
You guys don't use a lot of battle maps. I mean, when I'm watching your stream, you don't see it. If there is one on Roll20 or something, it's hidden away from us. We don't see it. But is there one back there, or are you guys doing it all theater of the mind?
We started off with Roll20, but I think a couple of the players, or one of our players, they couldn't load up Roll20 and stream at the same time. So at a certain point, it's like, I'm tired of making maps anyway, so let's just go theater of the mind.
Amen. I'm usually a tactical kind of guy.
It's so much simpler when you don't have to make battle maps, right?
Yeah. Man, that is a doozy. Old days, being on a little map, drawing it out with a marker or something. It's like, okay, I can wing this on the spot. I'll be fine. It looks roughly like that. There's a door over there. Yeah, your Roll20 situation. It's like, man, I gotta prep this thing 2 weeks in advance. Hope the lighting's right. The doors line up.
I gotta learn all this stuff.
Yeah. Where are the tokens at? Oh, I gotta program those in. Okay.
And if you're anything like me, when I make my maps, there'll be something on the map because I pick a lot of pre-generated stuff and then just add more tokens to it and rearrange things till it doesn't look like a pre-gen map anymore. And when I get done, the players always find the one nook thing in the corner that's clearly there that I didn't think about.
Mm-hmm.
I ran a D20 modern game with these guys 2 summers ago. This is before we started streaming. It's called Random Bullets. And it was very just inner city game. And one map had a propane tank somewhere on it, and I hadn't paid attention to the fact there's a propane tank, and so they used it to blow up the whole building. I spent hours and they just went behind the building and just blew the whole thing up. And I was like, well, great. I should have paid more attention to my map, I guess. I didn't notice the anhydrous tank back there. So
yeah, I think that is one thing that you can never prepare for is how crafty the players are going to be at any given moment.
They always see things differently than you do, and so you gotta. Sometimes you live and die as a DM by your own maps. So theater of the mind, they make them ask that question: is there a tank back there? And you're like, oh wait, they're gonna blow up my building. No, there's no tanks back there. You're all good. You can't find one. Nope, but if it's on your map, you got to honor it now.
Yeah. You did touch on something earlier I thought was a kind of an interesting concept, though. You talked about retconning a scene. Have you had to do that before?
We have. I don't recall what it was off the top of my head, but It might have. Oh, this. There was one that I retconned, and after the fact, I was like, I probably didn't need to do that, and I kind of regret it. But they'd done like a big heist, and once they got into the vault, like gas comes in, and they're all getting poisoned, except for the air genasi in the group. They can hold their breath forever or whatever. Mm-hmm. But that was the end of the session. But at the start of the next session, I actually looked up the gas poison. And I was like, oh, it's not actually it's not only the gas that you inhale. It's like hitting your soft tissues and all this other points. So you would still take damage. Mm-hmm. And then they were downed, and yeah, it was a big thing. And I was like, you didn't need to do that. Why?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic because, I mean, obviously, no matter which way you rule on whether to do a retcon or not, there's going to be some friction points that kind of come up. There are things to consider. Like Dustin and I we talk about this all the time. I always say this in an episode, but we used to run a Larp, live action vampire game. And, when you're talking about groups of hundreds of players, there oftentimes are scenes where something goes wacky, a rule gets screwed up. And since it's PvP, somebody may have lost a character that they've been playing for a year or two. And there's a lot of politics that come into play when something like that happens.
Yeah, I think so.
So, we've had some retcon scenes where we're like, do we want to retcon? I don't know if we should retcon.
When you're part of a nationwide org, mm-hmm. when you have visiting players from other cities, not even your chronicle, you're coming to your city to play, and something happens, there's levels of jurisdiction and oversight committees and stuff. So LARP is a whole nother beast of a mess when it comes to retcon, and you gotta apply for things, and it's like being in the court system in America. It's you gotta up things to the Supreme Court to get it handled sometimes.
It's ridiculous.
It would get nasty. So
but yeah, it's one of those things though where you see the scene, you play it out, and you look at it and you're like, man, okay, technically this wasn't done right. So what are the ramifications if we let this stand or if we overturn it? What precedent does this set? And how does this upset the player base? With the scene you're talking about, was there any friction from the players from that?
Yeah, they were not. They're not happy about that one.
Yeah, because it ruled against them, right?
Yeah. So I was just like, all right, I'm gonna have to put out fires after the game.
Yeah. I recently retconned something in my Zweihander game.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Well, and this is an example where a retcon. As a GM, if I screw something up and I screw it up against the players, to their detriment, I'm more likely to retcon it between game sessions than I am if I screwed up something that I should have been meaner about than I wasn't. But so I at the end of a Zweihander session, a couple of game sessions ago, DM Chuck, who was our guest last week, his character had a serious injury that had happened, and they went to a physiker to get it fixed. Well, I forgot that physicers have a special rule that they automatically succeed at healing injuries.
Oh, that's right.
So I rolled and I failed. So it didn't heal his injury. Now, injuries in that game system are devastating. I couldn't let him just continue to walk around with his injury, even though he walked around the rest of the game with it. I couldn't let him go the next game session with it still intact. So I retconned between that. It got fixed, and he came back the next game session, didn't have to deal with that injury anymore, because that would have been very game altering. So for me, it was better to alter that little bit of the scene at the end and retcon than it was to have to work around it for 3 more game sessions till he gets it fixed again. So it was just one of those situations where I felt like the retcon was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I haven't played Zweihander, but I think I would probably go with the same out there.
Yeah, that's pretty vicious. This is my first time playing it, man.
Whereas at the end of my previous Zweihander game, I screwed up a couple rules in the very last game session, but it worked out so well story-wise that I did tell the players where I screwed up after the fact, but they loved it so much they didn't care. So we just left it. We never fixed it at the end because it was the end of the campaign anyway. So they just rolled with it, and it was good. So it happens.
Sometimes with that, I'll definitely bend rules if it's just a lot of fun in the scene, and then it's all right, well, this isn't going to be a thing that continues forward, but right now, since that's fucking cool, we'll do that.
Yeah, that's a tough one too. The rule cool. You let something go one time because it's cool in the moment, and then it gets used over and over and over. Like, hey, hold on.
You can't abuse the rule of cool. Like that was another thing we used to run into with Larp a lot. Like I did something one time with like a super haven for a group of vampires, and like I did something, and then all the players were like, "We want to do this too." And I'm like, "You can't." And they're like, "But you did." I'm like, "But that's because it was for a cool plot line. Like, just leave it alone." Like, I created a dungeon for you guys. Essentially, you can't create your own dungeons. Like, no dungeons. Don't ask.
Just forget all that happened and just move forward.
I think your group, I think it's safe to say you guys are very story driven. So I think that as long as the story's flowing and the rules are there just to arbitrate the story really at the end of the day, right? Is that a philosophy you feel that you have for your group?
Yeah, I think so. Basically, I kind of just put story over everything else and mechanics and whatnot. But yeah, I think just getting out the most in each scene, if that makes any sense, then go for it.
Yeah. So like,
go ahead.
Sorry,
go ahead. I was gonna say we did not do tons of combat. I think most of our sessions were just RP. I want to say over the course of 41 episodes, we probably had less than 20 encounters.
Right.
Wow,
no,
nice.
I'd say that's probably, from what I've seen of your group, I think that's fairly accurate. It's a lot of role play encounters. I mean, it's not that there's not encounters. You're encountering things all the time. They're not just sitting in a room talking to each other. Like, they're interacting with you're doing a lot of NPC work in that.
Yeah, and that's when I'll come up with a lot of terrible names, and it's like, oh yeah, I don't. That's not the accent this guy had, but I don't remember it. So this is their accent now.
Got any particular offender names that you've had out there? Like we've had like Don Henrik, I think was one of them.
Trying to think. I mean, I had a group of goblins that I think there was like Gary, Barry, Mary, Jerry, Larry.
Yeah.
You can always tell when you've cornered your DM.
Yeah, that happened in my Zweihander game recently too. They hired 3 workers. I was like, fine, it's Larry, Curly, and Mo. That's your 3 workers. So, Larry, Curly, and Mo became official canon for that. They didn't do anything except work on a bike, but that was all they did. But they were there. So.
Another fun thing that I did for a bit is like whenever we would get new followers, I would take their name and like put it in one of those things where it mixes up all the characters to make new names.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
That. Like, it's like, oh yeah, thanks for the follow, and this is your NPC, blah, blah, blah.
That's kind of cool. I haven't thought about doing that. Yeah, so it's nice to be able to give back to your fan base whenever you get the opportunity. That's one of the cooler things with this online format is like, typically your game is just about your table and like who's hanging out with you, but you also get this audience that you're kind of bringing along with you and trying to feed them some entertaining beats and get them involved in some capacity here or there. How much like interaction do you guys have in terms of audience to your game?
I mean, just as you're playing it, like, are we active on Twitch while we're playing, or like?
Yeah, do you have any kind of direct involvement from your audience or anything like that?
I guess outside of just being active in chat, not too much. I know, like, we've asked people to just outright name NPCs because that's less work for me to do.
Preach.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we talk to people in the Discords. I'm, not great at that, but my players are very active in Discord. So.
All right. Powering minds from the chat have to know, Adam. Did you play a Power Ranger? Air Laser swears you look like an actor who played a Power Ranger. She can't put her finger on it.
I don't think so, but is that like the Red Ranger or the Great?
I think this is Ghostbusters logic, where it's like if anyone ever asks if you're a god, the answer is yes. If anyone's like, "Were you a Power Ranger?" You're like, "Yes."
Yes.
Give me that paycheck. I'll take it.
You figured out which season it was. I was, but the blue one. That's it. That's right.
I was actually Zorda. No, I think I honestly have just one of those faces. Because I constantly have people like, "Did I know you?" I was like, "I don't think so," but also my memory is terrible, so maybe.
Nice. Oh man. So let's give some of the audience some idea about what your game is, because I'm sure a few people in our audience don't know. So like, how would you kind of like do the boilerplate? Just like walk them in, show them like this is what I have to offer.
Okay. Gods We Know was heavily influenced by my players' backgrounds, and with I did a lot of like Blue Sky at the beginning, and I was like, all right, there's gonna be this fucking mask, and it's gonna be broken into bits, and they gotta kind of put together a mask to stop this ultimate evil that I have to come up with and think of what it's going to be later. So basically, the party unwittingly gathers this mask to put together that is ultimately going to be the big bad that they have to take down. I mean, this is a lot of spoilers, but we've wrapped up, so it's fine.
You just finished it last week, right? So.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the last session was like 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Half of it RP, half of it the big fight, and I don't know, it was great.
Nice.
I think everybody ended in a spot where they liked. We kind of did a jump forward like 3 years, and it's like, oh, what are your characters doing now? And it's kind of in a place where our next GM, Ty, Hitchhiker of the Mind, can pick it up and continue the story, but obviously put his own spin on whatever it's going to be.
So there's so you were saying that you wrote a lot of it based off the player character background. So
yeah.
How I guess extensive of a background did you get from your players? Did you ask for a lot?
I got quite a bit from everyone, which was really nice. I know Jen and Cole, they had a shared background where they grew up in a monastery. They made up their own language. I got a 13-page Google Doc from them.
What language?
No, just like their backstory. I was like, can y'all like pare it down to maybe 4 pages?
I've never had a conversation with either one of them, but just from watching your guys' sessions, I could see 13-page backgrounds from the two of them. I could see that being the case.
Was it one 13-page or was it 2?
It was at least one 13-page, because the initial document that they sent me was, it was basically them brainstorming, and I'm like, oh, I can't read through all this. And so then they sent me another one where it's like where they condensed everything and took out like they're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea.
Got the GM Cliff Notes version of the backstory.
And then Corey and Doug both probably sent me. It was all through Discord, so I don't know the actual page count, but I would say probably a page or 2. And yeah, so they just gave me like a wealth of stuff to work from, and I managed to weave in all of their backgrounds, and it's a lot of fun.
Nice. Yeah, that's one thing that a lot of players are always kind of keen on figuring out is, like how to work on a backstory, what kind of elements they should be putting in. Obviously, it's going to be dependent on, table and DM. But are there any particular things that you find just like make it really easy on you as a DM?
I mean, them putting so much work into their backstories, I think made me the world building that much easier, and hopefully more engaging for them because it is connected to the thing that they created independently. So that was honestly helped a ton with just coming up with the world, and it actually, like, all their backstories somehow had very easily were connected, and it
nice.
oddly enough kind of went with what I wanted to do anyways. And so I was like, this is kind of like a perfect storm right now.
Got lucky there.
Always nice when it works out that way, right? You don't have the one that's you gotta just try to stitch it together, like force it or anything. It's just nice when it all comes together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, I've dealt with other players in my home game where I get a lot of backstory from some people, and then one person's like, yeah, this is his name, and his parents were like rich or something, and then I'm like, okay, I guess that works.
Yeah, it kind of depends. Like sometimes, you sit down to make a character, and you're like, how much information do I really want to put to paper? Like how much do I want to discover while we play? And I think there's a couple ways to go around it. Like I think you can discover a character in play, and some people in our group are pretty big on that, I would say. And some people we played with in the past have been that way for sure. And then you got other players, obviously, like you said, we have 13-page backgrounds, and it's all detailed out from inception to the day one of adventuring.
Right.
Like every person they've ever interacted with on the way.
Yeah, they gave me like 12 NPCs,
mm-hmm.
maybe more from all their combined backstories, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I gotta pepper these people in somewhere or another.
Right. Which is the beauty of a homebrew campaign, is you have that ability. Like it's really one of those things where, in my opinion, homebrew has such a big advantage, because a module, like
mm-hmm.
you can't really take backgrounds and weave them into a module as easily. You can, it's just not as easy. Like
mm-hmm.
you're in something like a Curse of Strahd, like it's a pretty railroaded storyline. There's not a lot of room for wiggle there.
Yeah, your background's not gonna really come into play, which I'm in Curse of Strahd right now, and I don't think my background is coming at all. But it's fine. Well, I guess it comes through your character, I suppose.
Yeah, sometimes I take the background as that. Sometimes it's for the DM. Other times I think it's for the player to kind of understand, how to act, during the scenes that they kind of get into, more so than it is to inform your DM. And like just that exercise, kind of going through, figuring out the voice of the character, or like how they interact with certain types of scenes in their background, kind of informs how they'll act in the future, that kind of stuff.
I know for me, it's always a little bit of mix of both. Like I always start out with a good rough idea of who my character is, and I know that it's going to refine through gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't go in completely blind to who my character is, but he's not always completely detailed until 6-7 sessions in, and I really start to hone in on who I think it is. Do you feel like you do the same when you get to make a character, Adam?
I think it's been different a little bit each time. Sometimes I'll just start off with the name, which I don't know why I do that to myself, because I hate naming characters.
Me too. Get the hard thing out of the way first. Once you got that done, everything else is easy. Right?
Everything else just falls right into place. Yeah. Sometimes I'll come up with the voice first, and then other times I'll just like pick the class and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So I'm just I don't have a defined way yet, but I think I might actually start going with the character's name first.
Wow.
Because I don't know, it's like an oddly descriptive way to start forming a background.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, because like there's a lot of things that go into a name, right? Like things that you might decide later on that kind of feel like they should reflect, but obviously as a person, you get your name before you do anything.
Yeah.
So like that's a fascinating kind of turn of things.
Rose by another names to smell just as sweet, Jeff. It's just it's a name. Got to go Shakespeare on you. It is what it is. It's a name. It's
mm-hmm.
My character in the Curse of Strahd campaign, which I don't know if Chris is still around, but I'll risk it. His name's Bull Avard. So
Bull Avard.
Yeah, and his kind of end game is to have a road named after him. So it's basically oh no, he is here.
Yeah, still here.
So basically, it's his name started off as just a joke, and I was like, okay, that's how I'm going to build this character out. It's like,
nailed it.
I mean, I joke, but sometimes the character name does come about because you want something that feels right for what you've created. You got a personality, you got a voice. Now you just need a name that seems like it fits correctly. So, but sometimes a name is just a name.
Yeah. I mean, Joker in the chat's talking about how a lot of times a name reflects personality traits.
It can.
That you want to kind of bring out in the character.
Yeah, if your name's like Max Payne.
Yeah. I mean, let's just call it. In 2020, you can't name your character Karen now. Like so that name as a whole stigma attached.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be Karen unless you're going to be a Karen. Like just how it is.
That's not where I thought that was going to go. Yeah, but Max Payne, the pacifist monk. Yeah, there you go. I don't know. My parents were just weird. I don't know. I just decided to go a different route with things.
Again, sometimes it's just a tongue-in-cheek thing too, where you're just like, "Yeah, I'm naming my character Max Payne. He's a total pacifist, won't hit nothing." Like sometimes that works. It works both ways. That's why sometimes the name is just a name. But
yeah, but you're right. I have such a hard time coming up with names. Like for me, it's always the last thing. Like I'm like, I like this background. It's great. I got all the sheet figured out. I got the voice figured out. I got everything else rolling.
Now, do you do like the random character generator, like fantasy names, or do you go?
For mine,
I've done it a little bit here and there, but I never like them. So it's like, what does this mean? I'll take a piece of that, take a little chunk of that. Does that work? No. Okay. I get too into the like, what do the portions of the word actually mean, like the etymology of the name. And then, of course, it never comes up at any point whatsoever in the game. But like, it was like super important to me that I get it to like spell out something interesting. Nobody ever mentions it.
My current 5e character, Byron Harrows, his name totally came from a random name generator.
Did it? Huh.
I mean, sometimes they're good. I'll sit there for like 10 minutes, like, no. I like that last name with this first name. No.
Yeah, you got to find a good one because like some of those are just like Jim Doomfist. You're like, oh. All right, yeah, I timed that one well.
I knew it. I knew that character was a fake name. Like I knew it for the character. It was not his real name. So
true. Okay.
I needed a made up name. So the name that he goes by is not even his real name. And that finally came out. 67 games into the story, whatever.
Nice.
It is what it is, but it finally came out what his true name is. But fun little plot twist there. But for 50 games, like nobody knew that was not his real name, and then I made it up with a random generator online that I found. So it is what it is.
It's good that you. So did you always? Was that always just like in the back of your mind, like this might come out at any moment, or
yeah, I waited a long time for it to come out.
You sure did, man. No, that was like you said, almost 50 episodes in.
Yeah, year and a half, 50 episodes later, it finally came out. So,
well, then it was worth it. Then
it's a little payoff.
You've been lying to us this whole time. Well, yeah. Like, okay, all right.
So, just out of curiosity, we're doing something a little weird this week on TT2KB. We're talking about some character creation while we're just on the topic. Because this will see if you've ever done anything like this. Have you ever made characters blind? Just blind going in, don't know what you're doing, make a character.
Oh, I thought you meant if I ever had a blind character, and I was no. I thought about it. Sorry, repeat the question. I went down a whole different track.
Just blindly made a character for a game without knowing anything about the game.
Don't know the setting, don't know the system, don't know anything whatsoever about what the DM wants to do with it.
Yes. I mean, sometimes when I get bored, I just make characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what the app is, but yeah, I've got like 10 characters on there. I was like, I don't have games for any of these. Why did I make this? But I don't know. It's kind of fun just coming up with little quick backstories and picking things, and I don't know, just making up something that I know I'll probably never use.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been, kind of into like making sheets and coming up with personalities and stuff on the side. Always have like 2 or 3 characters in mind until there's a situation where my character dies and then I have zero ideas what I'm going to play. And but this one is a weird one because, like we were saying, we don't even know what game system it is. We don't know what setting. We don't know what era. It's like this could be like sci-fi. It could be 1920s. Could be D&D. Could be I don't know. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I think that would be a lot harder to do because I kind of want to ground their background in a place. Yeah.
Not only we're doing it live on stream, so
All right,
you can watch this. You can watch this train wreck in progress Wednesday night if you tune in here. You can.
nice.
Yeah, our DM likes to torment us, so this is what's
name
happening.
is literally Dark Secret. We have no clue what it is. So it being the forward-thinking people that me and Jeff are, we've already pitched our character concepts for this game we don't know anything about. So
Oh yeah.
if you've ever had to do anything like that yourself, so
Yeah, some of these ideas are terrible. It's gonna be great. Like the worst ideas I've ever put on paper.
Yeah, that sounds kind of terrifying, but it might be fun to just come up with, I suppose, a personality, and that would probably be the way that I would go about that.
Yeah,
I do that a lot. Like a lot of times, I come up with, and it's system agnostic, really. Like I'll come up with an idea of something I want to play, and then I keep those ideas until the right system comes along, where I'm like, I can make this in this system; it'll work. You know, and I don't mind doing that. Or sometimes it's out of your hands, like something like Zweihander, where it's random character generation. It's out of your hands. You get something, and then you figure out who that is. But I always have a few ideas in the back of my head of like something I want to play, and then one of my friends we're going to play Pathfinder 2e. Well, it's high fantasy. I got a cool high fantasy idea in my head. I'll put it into that game. It could have been 5e. It could have been, another game. So is that kind of how you feel like you make your characters? You say you have like a couple, or are you like DM guilding it, like, or D&D Beyonding it, where you're like just creating sheets and beyond and then waiting for a game? Or how do you do your characters?
Honestly, I'm just making characters for the fuck of it, and I don't know why.
It's the same thing, man.
It's the thing. But no, I mean, I typically will wait until I know what's the system before I make a character for that campaign.
Where do you pull your inspirations from?
I don't know, man. I've got like a couple of archetypes that I usually gravitate towards. Like definitely trickster is in there. Some form of like bounty hunter. I'd like to try a bit. I think the next character I come up with might be, I'm going to try to step out of that comfort zone and do something different. But what that looks like right now, I'm not sure. Like I've wanted to try a character with some sort of, I don't know, like missing a limb or blind, but I don't want to offend anybody.
Right.
I don't want to play it like I'm trying to figure out how I could do that without like,
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
without falling into something that seems like ableist, or you don't want to cross lines there. And I totally get that. My character's missing a hand currently, and and he had some detriment for a little while because he was missing that hand. He's overcome it. He doesn't have any problems anymore with it. But for a while, a sudden loss of one is probably rightfully going to have some negatives until you get the hang of it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you lose a hand? That's actually
my DM cut it off in a side scene off stream, and when I showed back up the next game, because I missed a game, so I had to run a side scene with the DM about where I was during the game I missed. And when I came back, I had my hand taken off.
Where did you go? Did you gamble and lose a hand?
It was cut off by these things called sea uglies, which when you're in a homebrew world, you deal with things that you don't really know what they are, and then they cut your hand off. But it's okay because my character's a pirate, so missing a hand is
it just finally happened. Yeah, you've been waiting for this. You've been wanting to be dismembered the entire time we've been playing.
One of the fun things I do with my character is I have a chart of all the scars he has from every time he's hit 0 hit points.
It's been a lot.
It's a lot. So just on the list. We have a question from Joker coming in here, redeeming a wisdom quote. You kind of answered this a little bit. We'll let you answer it again. It says, "Hey Adam, when you tackle games, you much rather play in established settings or toss the book out the window and homebrew your own? And if so, why?"
Yeah, I think I'll draw inspiration from certain things. Like I usually come up with like blue sky first, which is like probably the worst way to do it. But like, all right, this is how I want this thing to like end, and then work backwards from there. And if there's something that's already established that kind of like fits what I'm imagining, I'll like maybe borrow tidbits from there. But typically, yeah, just kind of throw out the book and just run with it.
Nice.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's true anytime you see a group like yours where, like we discussed earlier, you're maybe 20% combat. Your encounters are 20% combat encounters at best. Modules, it's usually the opposite.
Like 90.
Like 80% combat encounters and 20% like talking at someone at a tavern, between dungeons or something like. So, I mean, I can see where you wouldn't heavily lean on a module if that's your style of play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think modules are definitely tough. Like we're playing Curse and Shroud over in Featherfall Tabletop, and like all the players are GMs, and so like we know how to role play, but almost every encounter that you come into, it's like you're probably going to be in a fight. So it's like,
almost certainly, yeah.
And a lot of times with things that will not negotiate, like you can't have any other kind of like when we were running the Pathfinder, it was like, hey, these somewhat sentient plants come out there and try to whip you and drain your blood. Well, I can't really talk to it. I guess we'll punch it in the face, like if it had a face, like there ain't anything else you could do with them. Sometimes, like those are the encounters you get a lot of times in modules, and they're time sinks. Combats can be time sinks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Like I was trying to figure out ways. It's like, how do we speed this up? Like, do I just automatically give everyone advantage? Is that fun for anybody? I don't know. Because
really, I think it's hit points that does it, right? And fit that. I think if you just cut the hit points in half and say they will run at that point,
well,
or something along those lines, maybe that speeds it up.
I could say this for the gods we know: hit points was a problem in that last session. Like nobody had any. It was brutal by the end of it.
Well, they have been very good at just like making all my encounters look like they could have just like walked through it. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna hit them a little hard this time around. But I mean, it's tough. But you got 2 monks and a cleric and a rogue. Like they can dish out a lot of damage and heal themselves.
Oh yeah.
And you had one thing going for you. You had a little PvP in there.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's one thing that like kind of attracts me to Apocalypse World 2X. I think you only have like 4 hit points.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I still need to go through the book, but it looks like you can kind of looks like some of the times you don't even have to attack as a player. Like, I mean, you don't have to roll to attack. You just kind of do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's kind of fun. Morkborg looks appealing as well because the GM doesn't have to roll dice.
Oh yeah.
I think I would roll damage though because that's the fun part.
Sure.
But yeah, I want to GM another game at some point, but I still kind of thinking about what I want to do. I want to do like water world setting.
Oh God.
Okay.
Yeah.
You need some good aquatic rules. Like it's hard to find good aquatic rules in a lot of TTRPGs.
Yeah, and like ship-based combat, and I don't know. I just recently watched Waterworld for the first time, and that movie's so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Yeah,
I loved every minute of it.
Well, because I mean, you could look at like 5e. Like I think when Ghost of Saltmarsh came out, we all thought there was going to be some really cool naval stuff that came out in it, and there was a little bit, but it wasn't nearly as heavily naval as we thought Saltmarsh would be. So to me, it's left 5e feeling like it's still lacking naval rules.
Yeah, I read that, and I I think, everybody assumed it'd be like super swashbuckly, but that was like 10% of it.
Yeah, like it was barely any of the book hardly, which I was surprised because I flipped through it at the game shop because I thought I was going to pick it up because our Everstorm game is a very highly nautical game.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to get this book because I thought I could bring it back and give it to my DM and be like, look at these cool things that we can add to this game, right? It'll make this more robust than my pirate has water vehicles, and I use it for everything. Like it's literally the only thing you have to run a ship is water vehicles. So you want to fire cannons, water vehicles. You want to set sail, water vehicles. Like everything's water vehicles. So I was hoping it would make it more robust, but in my opinion, that module fell really short on that. So
I think that's 5th ed though, right? Like 5th ed doesn't want to be crunchy by design, so like supplements are not going to add complexity necessarily, and I think that's like that feels more like a Pathfinder or 3rd edition kind of supplement. If you're looking for like full on naval rules and how to go under the seas and how much brine goes into your water, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, I feel like it would be relatively easy to come up with a combat system, but also like, I guess what do you do for? Do all the players just have like one turn? Like, do you split up? Is somebody driving the boat and other people are slinging spells or cannonballs? Or how many hit points does a big ass ship have?
Yep.
Yeah, we had to homebrew all that for our naval combats in Everstorm. So
and then Dustin just uses control water and just dumps the other boat over, and so
I'm a druid.
the DM does all this prep, brings out this like handcrafted map of like boats he actually built on the table.
Yeah, he built 3D models of all the boats.
Dustin just does one spell, takes it off the board. Okay, there it goes.
Okay. I decided to play a druid, and it turns out that you put a druid on water, they're really, really powerful.
They're pretty good. Yeah,
they're pretty good on water. So,
see, Joker is saying you should check out Blue Planet, the TTRPG. I don't know what that is, but apparently that's something he recommends for Waterworld.
I will check that out. I'm actually making a note of that right now.
Yeah, or the fighter style mariner, which I took. That's going to be helpful. Get swim speed, climb speed, little armor.
Have you all looked into? I think it's a newer system, Quest.
Quest. I don't think I'm familiar with that one.
No.
I think it's like high fantasy, and you basically have all the same classes that are in D&D. I think they slightly changed the name, like naturalist instead of druid, but it's like very rules light, and I think you just have abilities and ability points, and you can just do the thing. I think there's only like a few things where you actually have to roll to like hit, but for the most part, you're just like, I cast the spell and it happens.
Interesting.
Well,
yeah, no, I don't think we've covered much on that one.
Yeah,
we've got a lot of guests with a very, very wide range of knowledge of TTRPGs, and I don't think that one's come up. So.
Yeah, that's one of the few that I don't think we've heard of. Like, that's interesting too, because we've had a lot of guests on that are really into the rules light things. So you would have thought that would come up.
I mean, I think it came out like either this year or last year, so it'd be pretty recent.
Fresh take. Nice. Okay, well, we'll have to take a look at that. Now, are you finding it sounds like you're kind of trending on that lighter rules versus kind of crunchy rules kind of setup there? Is that your kind of preference?
Yeah, I think so. I think being that like I just typically like doing roleplay more than the other stuff.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just looking for a system that is kind of geared more to that. Or at the very least, I might make a system, but that's all. How much time I want to dedicate to that. I've got an idea where I want to use rock, paper, scissors as combat.
Yeah,
we've done that.
Yep.
Yeah. How'd it go?
Old school LARP rules, man.
We talked. The old school LARP for Vampire was all rock, paper, scissors.
Mm-hmm.
So going from a D10 World of Darkness system to the way that they ran it for rock, paper, scissors was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you a lot of the ins and outs in that after stream, even if you want to, because I don't know how much nuance I want to get into mid talk. But you basically made a test. If you won, like you could retest and burn skill to like retest against somebody, and like sometimes certain powers gave you the bomb, so you weren't just rock paper scissors, you were rock paper scissors bomb. Like sometimes the number of traits you had versus them, you could win on ties or not. Like there was a lot of nuance to. There's more to the nuance to that system than what it sounds like when you hear somebody saying, "Oh, you're playing rock paper scissors." But there was a lot to it, so it can be more complex doing that even than what you would imagine if you've never seen it done.
Yeah, that was the old Mind's Eye Theater system for the original Vampire.
That's right.
So if you were looking for that rule set, it's probably still out there. I don't know if that book still circulates, but
I'm sure you can find it if you look hard enough.
Yeah, but that was good for that particular thing because you're walking around in character, and a lot of people didn't want to carry dice. So you're just walking around. It's like I got a little piece of paper with my character sheet on it. Bam, bam, bam.
Well, now are you like in? I was gonna say the wilderness. Are you like in the park with dice? How do you set that up?
When we were LARPing, it was in a building on campus because we were at the University of Illinois, so we had a campus building that was rented that we could play in, and so we were on 2 floors of classrooms. Essentially, we can get into the classrooms and use those. So people didn't really carry dice around with them. It was all rock paper scissors, so you didn't have to carry dice with you. You just had a character sheet.
Yeah, it depends. We did have that one Macomb LARP that was out in the woods. It was out in a park area. So like you'd go out and just like it's dark out and the moon's out and you're hearing wildlife. And you're like, oh shit.
I'm talking the early 2000s, like this before Critical Role. It was before a lot of the gaming stuff was still like we always just kind of say like you didn't want to be around the people who weren't playing because they just look at you really weird.
Sure.
You didn't know what was going on. You didn't want the police called. You just you found some secluded area. The 50 people playing could go play and not create a ruckus for anyone else around.
Yeah, but Malice is talking about like the original LARPs. They played in actual public spaces like bars, and so like the original rule set was designed with part of the setting of Vampire being the masquerade. You're supposed to like hide the fact that vampires exist, so nobody should know. So part of the mechanics of the game was to represent that you shouldn't let any of the normies know you're playing a game.
Sure.
So like you're supposed to go through all your challenges and interactions and everything without anybody noticing anything weird was happening.
I mean, that sounds pretty fun.
It sounds pretty crazy to me, but yeah.
It was all fun and games, so you're playing Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Not fun games anymore.
And guess what? You're not playing.
You can't really disappear. So.
Yep.
No, it's and I'll tell you what, for your idea though, like if you wanted to make a system that used rock paper scissors, like the reason why it worked so well for LARP is because it was a very quick system. Yeah, and things didn't get overly complicated. Other than with LARP, the number of people involved in a scene can be 30 people. So like going through combat actions would take forever because there's 30 people sometimes. Right, but the system itself is actually very quick. So.
Something that, or if you wanted to roll dice, like a d6, like 1 through 2 is rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had people who would have 3 colored dice and then reach in a bag, pull one out. It was like, oh, that's the rock, or that's the paper.
Nice.
There got to be some people who really believe there was a skill to rock, paper, scissors.
I mean, I would be one of those people.
Yeah. Well,
it was the psychology of it. It was the psychology of it that people believed. Like, guys would always throw rock.
As their first read.
Yeah. A lot of the time, yes.
Always throw rock. And then, there was like I said, the meta of the game where it was like, well, this guy has the bomb, so does the opponent throw scissors knowing it'll beat paper or the bomb, or does he throw rock because you expect to throw scissors? Like, so, you gotta, there's like it's like the scene from Princess Bride, right, where the guy's talking about the poison. That's exactly what would go through these systems in your head. So it's talking like, well, he's got this, so I got to do this, and I have this advantage, so he's going to do that. Like, you almost think yourself out of the right answer sometimes.
I think that's constantly been my experience playing rock, paper, scissors. It's like, all right, they think I'm going to throw rock, so I'm going to throw paper. But no, then I'm done. I'm throwing rock.
Yeah, I will say, though, there were certain people.
Go with this system, I'll give you one other piece of advice. you're gonna get tired of saying the words "start down."
Yeah.
Get tired of start down. Don't start up. Start down. You gotta get the cadence.
It's rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Right.
What? Do I do
I
it
have
on
to
three?
go on shoot. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to. It's getting everybody on the same cadence.
There's always that one starts top. And you're like, ah.
Always the one that starts up. Nope. Start down.
I've never. I don't think I've ever seen anyone not start down. I didn't even think that would be a thing.
It was the one thing we had to say more often than anything else. It's like, nope, start down.
Yeah, we had people who went as far as like they pulled their hand signal out from behind them. You had people who would change their hand as the reveal was going on. So like this, you're like, okay, come on now, you can't be doing that.
That's something my son and daughter have started playing because my son likes to make things complicated. They went for rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock.
Oh yeah.
Now, if you really want to go complicated, you can throw a lizard and a Spock in there, and now you got all kinds of scenarios.
Well, what was the? There's a full body one where it's like hunter, bear, woman, maybe.
Wow.
Something along that line. I don't remember the exact, but yeah, it's like.
Let's just
Actually, I don't even remember the rules on that one. But like you had to do full body pose.
Oh god.
I was like, that's kind of fun, but exhausting.
That sounds like something would happen in LARP.
That definitely would not have worked at LARP.
No, but people had their
Definitely.
rituals though, for sure. Like Mouse is talking about, you would get into fight mode, like you had combat shops. You'd get
You
bouncing
chop
whenever it was
angry.
ready
You
to
could
go.
chop angry when you were.
Yep.
That's what we called it chops. We didn't call it rock paper scissors. We called it chops. So when you were combat, you were chopping angry, like it was.
Yeah, the stare down, everything.
That's where the rock always came in. People throwing that fist, man. It's a fist.
Yeah, it's life or death out there.
Oh yeah.
It was sometimes.
Yeah, I mean PvP brings out some weird attitudes in people for sure.
Yep.
I don't know if it would be quite the same in the tabletop experiences because, in the LARP scenario, you're embodying your character. You're physically there in the space. People are moving in and out. Like at the table, at least you have that little bit of separation. This is me, the character talking to you, is a little bit more pronounced than it is in LARP, where things really feel personal.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched some streams where you can definitely tell that the people are actually not happy with each other in roleplay. I was like, y'all are not acting right now. This is
Well, some people, you don't have to be in person or have an outfit on to get in the headspace of your character.
Mm-hmm.
You can get into the headspace of your character through a lot of different means, and once you're there, if it's a character you really beloved and something horrible happens to it, you gotta sometimes get yourself back out of that headspace for a moment and remember it's a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, people got really invested.
Allegedly played with friends, right? I mean,
one would think, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of my things that I always get, I guess, weirded out by, because I find it pretty easy to separate the two.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I'm in there, I'm in there, but when I'm out, I'm out. It's fine. I know we're just playing a game. It's all good. We're friends here.
Yeah.
But, some dog.
Guest appearance.
But yeah, I made the mistake early on in my online days of essentially this guy asked me to play one of his NPCs, I guess, in the past. And so it was the kind of thing where it's all right, I'm helping shape the background story of this NPC. And I ended up doing PvP against somebody because they were playing a demon and they had attacked, I guess, my companion in the game. And I was like, all right, well, this is what the character would do.
Yeah.
And that was a huge, no. And I was like, well, sorry, I did not know this. I will not do that again. But yeah, I guess you learn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a thing that you kind of figure out with your group, right? What they tolerate, what they want in the game, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It sounds like in your group, there's at least a few occasions where this keeps coming up. Is that a conversation you guys have had? This is something we're comfortable with. This is, something we maybe want to have more of. or is it just kind of like on the fly and just figure it out?
No, we definitely had session zero, lines and veils. I think that's something for an extended campaign that you should probably revisit from time to time, because there was some things that me as GM completely forgot was the line and crossed it, and it was like, well, sorry, yeah, that was something I heard 10 months ago, and it is not in there anymore. So that was, it's fine to just, I think you definitely need to check in with people from time to time just to make sure. But also at the end of the day, it's a game. We all know that we're not trying to be malicious towards each other. And
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's something that's a lot easier at the table too, because especially if you're physically in the same space, your friends coming together, you're joking around, you're having food, drinks, and that kind of stuff together. So there's a relationship to the people around you. Whereas in LARP, a lot of times the only time you saw that other person over there was when they were playing that character in this setting right here in front of me. And so the only thing you know about this person is what that character is doing, and that character is a dick. People hated each other, and it was do you hate the character or do you hate the player? Do you know the difference?
Sometimes that didn't get better once you got to know the player either.
No.
It was pick your character, and now that I'm sitting out at post game and talking to you, you're kind of an ass.
Yeah, that's probably the same people. But it's even though I just said this, it's well, that's what my character would have done. Is it? Or
Well, that's a tricky set of words.
Those words have become anathema in the business anymore. That's the last thing anybody ever wants to hear is, well, that's what my character would have done.
Yeah. Well, it's a weird thing because you get people who don't have a character, and then it's just what the player would always do in the scene. And then you're like, okay, well, come along, let's role play a little. Let's get this out here. Let's be a character, please. Thank you very much. And then they do that, and then they go the other way. Well, that's what my character would do. Then you got to bring it back to that middle point somehow. It takes a while. That journey is long. Filled with some bumps. Yeah, Joker's got a comment down here. That's something else. He's saying that he had a player that came in who wanted to play a racist character, but actually turned out he was actually a racist. And wanted an excuse to do it in the game. And there's more stuff to that paragraph there. Yeah, that is horrible. That's an easy way to rule that person out of your gaming group. Yeah, we kind of bumped into that one time at the Vampire LARP. There's some themes in Vampire that kind of cross lines just by the nature of the genre. But we had players who wanted to play neo-Nazis, and we're like, ugh. Really? Oh man, come on, seriously?
I would be.
And it went just about as good as he thought it would go.
when you're playing at a table with 4 or 5 people, you can keep track of the lines and the veils and stuff pretty easily.
Yeah.
When you're running a 50-person LARP, and with people coming out of town and everywhere else, it was you didn't know what you were getting into all the time. So it's a whole different world.
That sounds like you could get a mixed bag pretty easily.
Yeah, like I said, that's why there was oversight, and there was layers of leadership involved in these things, because they get busy. So
yeah, if you ever want to really have a fun time trying to run a campaign, that's how you do it. Just make sure you have an entire set of bureaucracy to write any scene.
It makes those modules feel a little less cramped. That's all I'm going to say.
I'll never do that again. Oh man. So this year has been crazy. We're kind of talking about, kind of get into the streaming thing and kind of flowing through that. And, this year, of course, has been unique for a lot of reasons. But, the COVID came along and freed up a lot of people's free time. And it sounded like you guys were getting your start somewhere in the spring. So I would assume there was some kind of open schedules there suddenly for you. How's that kind of impacted your time gaming? You've been playing more, less, same?
I think I ended up joining 2 more games, and then yeah, this has just been a rough year for a lot of people. So one of those games dropped out because I think there's like a tornado had hit a player's house.
Oh,
Oh man.
Yeah, and some other things happen as well, like in just people's lives. So it's just tough to deal with that. We're like, all right, well, I think we can all take a break from this game. It kind of helps. Like, I know the Curse of Strahd, we're like every other weekend, every other Sunday. I have like a once a month game that I'm playing in. But yeah, I've definitely stepped up a bit more.
Mhm.
I played a lot more. And now I'm like, I kind of want to bring it back in.
yeah,
Play
feel
like
that.
maybe 2 games. Yeah.
Now, what I have found, at least during this time period where everyone is quarantined, if I guess is the only word to use for it, is that I think what gaming is to them has changed a little during that time. In the same way that like people who normally don't binge Netflix or binging the crap out of Netflix.
Yeah.
People who were gaming, like this became like their only social outlet.
Yes.
And
And
that's
that's
that with your players to be more of like they really were clinging to the game because that was their only interaction.
yeah. I mean, I've had several players in different games have like that's been one of the things. It's like, yeah, this is kind of one of the best parts of my week, like coming and getting together and playing. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's just been tough on people, and now people need an escape, and tabletop RPGs are the way to do it.
Yeah, a fantasy world to slip into is pretty nice.
Well,
Well, it's a hobby ripe for the picking during quarantine,
Mhm.
especially with the invent of digital platforms to play on. Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, Foundry's out now. Like with these platforms where you can get on there and play virtually, like everyone's learning about Zoom in the world, and we've known about it for a long time.
yeah.
These things forever. And everyone's like, "Have you heard about Zoom?" You're like, "Yeah, I know a little about Zoom." Yeah.
Have you heard this crazy Zoom thing? So, well, for your games, do you all use Discord or Zoom?
Discord.
for
Yeah.
most. I use Zoom for Zweihander now because it's just more convenient. One of the other players technically runs that for me, so I let them do that.
Yeah. We're kind of a group that gets stuck in our way. So like we figured this out once, this is what we're gonna go with for the rest of eternity.
Right.
Yeah, I
And
think
Go ahead.
one game we use Zoom because it's just easier on people's computers, and then in another game we're using Discord. Yes, I don't know. That isn't an issue, but yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say for me, Discord's biggest advantage is it's better for community building. So
Yeah.
you got the server, you got everything else attached to it. Like it's better for community, for organizing and running a community. When you're doing a stream channel, that's a big deal. So
Yeah. The only thing I wish we had was a forum, so people can actually put up topics and revisit them, and like actually have conversations over a period of time instead of just having it disappear up into the log forever.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe you could do a Reddit. Well,
yeah.
Maybe.
but then it's like, all right, which community am I showing love to here?
Right, exactly. And Discord's killed forums everywhere. So
It's nice having everything in one place.
Yeah.
You're just showing your age, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, let's just go back to MySpace. Let's see. So Joker redeemed a question here we should go back to.
We should.
So some DMs consider their biggest achievement things like making the players cry, or that moment the players ordered a pizza for everyone. What do you consider your biggest achievement as a player or GM?
I think just when people are having a good time. Like, I mean, it's definitely, it's a small thing, but like when you have a player, tell you it's like, oh, this interaction was awesome, or like the session was amazing. Like, it's definitely, I don't know, just helps, warms the heart. And then it's also like, because I know back in like July or maybe June, like I was not in great spot creatively. I was like in a huge funk, and like editing the episodes, I was like hating life.
Yeah, I know that life.
I'll let you editors talk about this one. I'm just gonna, I have no clue what you're talking about.
It's interesting. Around that same period of time for me, that was we're riding the same wave, I think.
And then like I think our numbers had been down because I think just all across the board, like everybody's like, COVID, and I think everybody hit the wall about the same part, about the same time.
Yep.
And I was just like, why am I even doing this? Like, I am miserable. But then, did a session. One of the players was like, hey, this was an amazing session. And then I kind of snapped out of it. I was like, that's actually why I'm playing, is just to have fun and not because I'm creating content.
Mm-hmm.
And that really kind of just bounced me back. I don't know if I answered the question at all. I'm pretty sure I didn't.
No, that's an answer to me. Because I think that is an important aspect of it, is getting that flow of information back and forth between player and DM, getting that sense of are we actually enjoying ourselves? Because it's not always obvious. You would think it's obvious all the time, but it's not. And DMs and GMs are people too, guys. Show them some love.
I was gonna ask, do you inquire with your players a lot? Hey, did you guys enjoy last game? Do you ask them for feedback often, or do you just keep going until they complain or say something?
I don't really ask for feedback. I mean, maybe I don't know. I don't want to be the clingy DMs. Are you having a good time? Was everybody?
The awkward host at the party that keeps coming by. Would you guys like some nerves?
Do you still love me? What are we doing here?
Pass out the survey.
But it's tough when you're playing online because you don't have that interaction of being in the same room, and a lot of times people's cameras might not even be where they're looking, and so you can't tell at all.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah.
I'll say this much. I ran a game at a game shop before COVID hit, and I was running every other Sunday with it was a D&D 5e game at a game shop. And what struck me is, after being on stream and playing online with my friends for so long, when I played in person, was I didn't realize how much it would annoy me watching them all grab their phones all the time.
Yeah.
People on their phones. Now it's a perfectly normal thing. It doesn't mean that they're not enjoying the game, but it felt really weird, that they're just hanging out on their phone most of the time and not engaged in necessarily what's always going on. So to me, I almost took it they're not enjoying the game. As a GM, or as a DM, I was like, man, I don't think they're enjoying the game. But anytime I ask them about anything, though, they're like, oh, it was a great time, and they genuinely seemed like they were having fun most of the rest of the time. But it was I don't know. You don't get that with stream, because when people are on stream, they know they're on stream, and they know they're performing to a degree. So you don't see me sitting here on my phone messing around very much. But did you get that a lot? Do you see those sorts of things pop up?
Well, I had one session where I had a player. They were drawing pretty much the whole time, and so I don't know. I was just definitely in my head about that, and then I. A couple days later, I was playing Curse of Strahd, and I typically will have Twitch up on my phone, and so I was being active in chat. And then after the game, I was like, and it probably looked like I was just bored and not, in it. And so I messaged Chris, and I was like, hey man, I just want to say you're doing a great job, and I know this past stream probably looked like I was just fucking off, but sorry. Be more cognizant of that future, because I know how I felt about it.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, let's see. What was the other thing I was seeing in here in the chat? Actually, that question earlier from Joker could probably go around the table. Do you have anything, Dustin, that you consider your biggest achievement of gaming?
Okay, so you know me, and you know my style of GMing, and you're currently a player in one of my games. Mm-hmm. So I love a game where when it's all said and done, I like a game where I feel like the story has reached where the story gets told. I guess by the time it's done, there has been a definitive story that has happened, where players have pushed this to the point where there's a definite like climax and like
Mhm.
wherever the chips fall as they may. Like I loved the way that my Terra and Trifel game ended.
Yeah.
Like that game, like the players killed each other. It was, and they were cool with it. They were all down with it. They were just like, this is what has to happen. You got to ritually sacrifice me to stop this thing. And then it didn't work. And then they tried more. Like everything just went to hell in a handbasket. And it like created this story that was way better than anything I could have written and way better than anything they would have proposed for how that game ought to end. And just was, and that's what, and to me, what a tabletop RPG is when you get this weird story that's better than anything that anyone could have set down and just wrote like a novel. Like you could not have wrote that ending. Like, so to me, those are the biggest achievements for me is when I can push players to that point where they create something that is otherwise nearly impossible to have created.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoy giving the players like the payoff of I guess with the guys we know, the twins, they had this person in their backstory who like kind of drove them out of their village and killed their by proxy mother. And when I RP'd him, I just made him an annoying asshole. And when they finally got to kill him, they were both like, ah!
Oh, man.
It's like, yeah, that's fun.
Those NPCs you love to hate. Yeah, I think a couple things that have happened to me happened in LARP as well. Like we had one where we, as like kind of a chronicle, we had to do a reset because like the crew that came before us were like wanting to keep their story arcs their own and didn't want us using any of their information. So we had to like make a hard reset, and nobody wanted to make new characters. So we were kind of in between these two situations. And Dustin did a pretty awesome, like, big meta plot thing, taking the big players out to do some crazy shenanigans story arc.
Oh, man. I forgot about that. That was amazing.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that.
So, like, all the power players are over there. And then all the usual, like, kind of, lower tier, like, power plays, like the kind of follower characters and, like, the wallflower types and stuff were left out in the main game. And so I took them all in a room. I'm like, hey, we're time jumping 3 years. Here's all the random stuff that I've established that's going to be happening in the future, like setting wise, and these factories come in, and these organizations go on. This presidential campaign does this, blah blah blah, and all this stuff. So now let's go around the room, and you get to pick 3 things that happen as like a yes and kind of scenario, and we're going to figure out what the structure, the politics is in the city, who likes who owes things to one another, what you guys did when these other people disappeared because they've been gone for 3 years. And it was this whole brainstorming session. It was just awesome. Like these people that usually didn't do much were suddenly jumping out of the woodwork, coming up with like creative ideas. Mm-hmm. And what really tied it together, which I at the time was kind of like hesitant to do, is Dustin finishes up his scene. He's bringing his players back, and we're near the end of our time slot. We're like, okay, we're going to wrap up game here. So maybe we'll reveal all this stuff next game session. And one of our DMs just decided, no, let's full send right now. Bring everybody in there. I'm like, oh shit, seriously? Like, okay. So I'm like, okay, guys, just role play that you're having a day that like in the court, like things are normally going on, and then we'll see what happens. So they're like, okay. And they run in. I'm like, this is going to be a disaster. And it turned out to be the greatest scene I've seen, like at LARP, period. It was just the old crew comes in, like, what are you doing? Like, you're running the city? Like, what the hell? And like these guys are like, who are you guys? Like going back and forth, and like there's like power vacuum going on there and stuff. It was awesome. So like that was probably the big one, like in terms of like large overarching. But like the other scenes I really like doing were like the small ones, like the one-on-ones. Like particularly with kind of a newer person. Because like Vampire had a lot of themes and stuff that were kind of complex and difficult to wrap your head around as a player coming in, instead of it just going to like superpowers and I'm cool, and so like I always liked running people's first feeding scenes as a vampire. It's like the first time they go out and they have to go through the whole thing of like stalking somebody and figuring out what they're going to do and how they're going to deal with the moral implications, and watching it dawn on them that this is like a complex, awful thing that's going on, and how they're navigating that and dealing with whatever awful thing comes out of it, like because they inevitably blunder and do something interesting. But it's awesome seeing the lights turn on, like mid-scene. You're like, oh, I get it, you know. And then from there on, they're out the door doing something cool. Like that was always what I always enjoyed.
Do you find that you like instructing like newer players when you're bringing people in, Adam?
I don't think I've really had to play with newer players. Most people I've played with actually have more experience than I do.
Right on.
It really works out there. So if you have an opportunity, I'll tell you, it is a lot of fun bringing somebody in new. I know for Zweihander, I've been teaching a lot of people, like Jeff is brand new to Zweihander. I've been teaching a lot of people that system as I've been running these games on TT2KB, and it's been amazing to watch some of the, like one of the players in my first Terran Treefell game had never played any TTRPG before. So it was his first time playing anything.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he did a great job, but it was a lot of fun watching them get their sea legs, if you will, you know, like figuring it all out and going, that is a really cool thing to get to do. And we got to do that with more Larp than we did anywhere else, because there was always new players, you know, people would bring a friend and they'd be there for the first time. So we got a lot of opportunity to do that there. And it was really cool to get to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's not a moment you get to see too often. Somebody's first time playing a tabletop role-playing or a live-action role-playing game. You know, because there's like a magic there that, like, it happened for me really young, so I don't really remember it as clearly. And like for us, it's just been kind of a hobby we've always done. But like you see it in like people coming into the hobby, you're just like, damn, this is fucking cool. You know, like it's really exciting seeing somebody find a new thing that they're really excited about. You know, like they're going to invest a lot of time into, they're going to get into the, you know, the culture and community of it. And I don't know, it's like one of those things, just like you said before, you know, warms your heart as you kind of see it kind of going on.
Yeah.
Now do you have like a crowning achievement as a player?
I think maybe playing in Curse with all the other GMs, and I mean, this is going to sound terrible, but like us destroying every encounter because we were just like breaking it. Like we all like, I think, well, I'm doing a lot of dumb shit just because, like, I don't know. That's part of the fun of being a GM is like, all right, how do I deal with this thing that they've just like thrown into my pile? And it's like, I've got this whole thing planned out and I might as well just rip it up now. Like, but I think that's a lot of fun being a GM and having to do that. I'm not sure how much Chris is enjoying it, but I think he is. Like, I'll give an example. We're at the death house is like basically the first encounter, and I played an Eladrin, and you can Misty Step at level 1, and so I just went up to the 3rd level of the death house and went inside, and it's like, all right, what? And it's all in Roll20, so it's just gotta like scroll up through a bunch of shit, and like our party just like essentially ran up the stairs because I found like the dead baby room, and like they're like, oh shit, let us all run just past all of these encounters that we probably would have had to get into.
Yeah,
Nice.
Bypass half the dungeon, right? Because of the simple ability you get at level 1.
Yeah, when it's a canned module dungeon, that is fun to kind of short circuit it, you know, like outsmart it. That's a good feeling in that case because you're not going against your DM necessarily. You're going against the module pre-written.
As long as you're not the guy who paid the $50 for the book.
That's true. That's true.
We will use every sentence in this.
It doesn't work. Your spell fizzles.
All right, you can go to that room, but it's going to cost you 16. Yeah, Chris Derps had a cool thing up here he wrote. As a player, he's all about finding creative solutions to a problem. His sorcerer was separated from an unconscious party and didn't have spells that can find them. He ended up befriending a dog and using prestidigitation, or however you pronounce that word, to create the smell of the barbarian because we established he stinks. I found my party, and now a character has a Sheba. That's pretty cool.
I mean, that's pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
But yeah, I mean, that's one of the good things. Like, that's a good GM because you can anybody could just be like, yeah, that wouldn't work. But it's like, no, it's more fun. Just have the dog track down the scent. Like that's what's a cooler story.
Absolutely.
Right. At the end of the day, like I was having this discussion, I don't remember who it was. Was it last week with Chuck? Maybe we were talking. I was like, everybody remembers the story. Nobody remembers the roles.
Mm-hmm.
Like you may have made a roll to do something, but no one remembers what the roll was unless it was like you auto killed, natural 20'd something like, or critically fumbled. Like you'll remember a few of those, but for the most part, nobody remembers all the other roles that took place in a combat. They remember the story of what happened. Oh, the time that Jeff's character died. Like you'll remember that. You don't remember all the roles necessarily that happened. But I'm just saying, like in any of them, like it's you remember those things. Like I know, like one of my two favorite moments as a player. Like I don't think that there will ever be a day where we don't talk about the destruction of Vula Sands.
Yeah.
Or the court scene at the end of the previous campaign, the church scene. Like those were fantastic moments and very different moments. Vula Sands was a complete just 3-hour romple stomp through a city. And like rampage style. It was like rampage style. Like ridiculous. Whereas like the church scene was like a total like RP kind of moment scene. Like I enjoyed both of those equally. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I don't remember half the roles that were made in the combat 3-hour combat scene, but I remember every bit of the story that took place in it. So for me, like those achievement moments are always about things that happened in the story, and sometimes coming up with a cool solution to a problem that's not expected is definitely a part of that enjoyment for me. I do that with Bauer a lot. So
yeah, I definitely enjoy that stuff. And like you said before, I think it's the scenes coming together naturally in a epic, awesome way. Like that's the huge payoff comes at those moments, and those are the ones, like you said, Dustin, we're always talking about down the road.
Yeah. I think, like I said, for me, I'll use the moral dilemmas like you were talking about, and I will push players into those moral gray areas until they kill each other from it. That's that's how I run my games.
If you haven't figured this out from the interview so far, it's Dustin is into just causing players to murder one another or commit suicide. It's only a good game for Dustin if a player's character kills himself. That's how it goes. See, he doesn't even deny it. You see this?
That's how that Larp thing was too. I had the players insisting on which one of them they were going to sacrifice to the spider god, so that they could all walk away happy, like everyone else could walk away happy. If only one of them would get sacrificed, and there was a 3-hour debate over they had it down to like how often they could have conjugal visits with the one that was going to be taken by the spider god, like how often they could visit them. Like, we were trying to get all this negotiated into like a contract with this spider god. So it was a whole lot of roleplay fighting. They just gave up and tried to fight it. Like 3 hours later. I don't mind all the setup though. It made that scene super fun. So you're right. I hadn't thought about it till you mentioned that. Was one of my finer ST and GM moments. So
it's a staple Dustin move.
Staple me move.
Well, I guess in one game we ended up going. I had a character who was like very driven by snacks, and we ended up in different like levels of, like one, we're in this layer, like one level was like vinegar, another level was like mayo for some reason. And we were just going through all these different like foods. And after we had escaped, my character came up with, I believe the first person to make different types of chips, like flavored chips. It's like, yes, I'm making this canon. He is the creator of Lay's. No.
Can't eat just one.
Oh, man.
So before we start to run out of time here, you do have a second show that's on your guys' channel. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your second show that you have running right now?
Sure. We got Mind of the Martyr is Ray's baby. I think he has built this this campaign and setting over the course of like several years.
Okay,
nice.
And yeah, so that's been a lot of fun to see like the things that he's come up with, and I believe Cole and the gods we know playing in that. I think they're 20 sessions in, but
yeah, they're in their 20s, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, they play on Monday nights p.m. Rockin' Time Pacific. And if you want to check that out, they're going to be our only show on Friends Who Roll Dice for the moment, as we're taking a little hiatus. But all of October, we're doing a huge charity drive. So we're going to have a different game every Friday, and we're doing like all horror games. And then on Wednesdays for the month of October, we're playing, I think, Short Shot of Atrium, which I think their Kickstarter just ended like 2 days ago. And then a 13-hour stream. We're going to have like... Yeah, I don't know who's running that, but, you know, hats off to them. We're playing, I think, like 5 different games. I believe it's like iHunt, Jiangxi, which is actually a tabletop game, which I think they're going to hack for this. Monster of the Week's in there somewhere. But yeah, it's going to be... October's going to be a busy month.
Yeah, when I was looking for links earlier, which I did put in the chat there, by the way, if you're looking in the chat currently, that's their Twitch location. I was noticing you had a YouTube as well, so definitely look them up on YouTube because you have some videos going over there. Give them a follow. You know, I guess not follow, it's a subscribe over there.
Make those hours of editing worth it, right?
Yes. As a fellow editor, I know. Please go to the YouTube.
Editors always promote YouTube because they know exactly what the time they put into getting those videos back up there.
Oh.
The podcast is out there. I actually have to edit a couple of, well, not a couple episodes tomorrow because I would drive myself crazy, but I'm going to do one tomorrow.
Yep.
It's an aggressive schedule, right? An aggressive schedule.
Yeah.
Man.
I edited 2 episodes and over like the course of a weekend, and I was like, what?
Depends on how heavy you go into the editing. It's like I tried this last week. It's just an aside that's not relevant to anything for anybody, but there was a cricket last week that drove me insane during our talk. And I was like, okay, I'll get this in post. You know, okay, I'm going to go through there, pull it up. I'm looking at it. I'm like,
man.
You'll be able to see it. It's a really obvious signal in this. Nope. It was just exactly whenever Dustin would talk, the cricket would go. Tried things in Audacity. I had all kinds of my usual tricks. Couldn't figure anything out. The cricket's still in the stupid thing. Just gave up.
I early on, I edited out all of the
Oh yeah, I used to do that.
After a while, I was like, no, I do it so much, and then my players do it a ton, and this is just taking forever.
Yeah, I had an annoying pattern on my Let's Plays where I would go, like, but it was like this lip sound. It was like the beginning of every time I would talk, like, ugh. So I got so used to just seeing those and like deleting them out, changing up. I used to spend like hours, like, you know, be like 12 hours for a stupid 30-minute video. Be like, okay, I can't do this. I'm done.
Yeah, that's too much work for 30 minutes.
Oh, it was a nightmare. You know, you get like 4 views and you're like,
why did I do this?
Meanwhile, the completely unedited clip of last week's Wisdom Check got 168 views over the last week. So, you know, your edited got like 14 and 168 got the full cricket experience.
Yep.
Hey, 15 viewers got the real deal.
That's right. Unedited, uncut. It's a director's cut is what that is.
Yep. More power to you, man. I'm with you. We got to hold together for this one.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was, but I saw them on Twitter. They're like, I just edited 2 episodes in a day. I was like, why would you tell people this? They're going to expect you to do that. No.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, right. So, yeah, YouTube is what I'm trying to get across. Go check out their YouTube. I didn't get their link for that one, sadly, in my little live thing.
It'll be on our page. So
yeah, Friends Who Roll Dice. And it looked like you had a decent number of videos up already. It was like 5 or 6 probably, I think I saw. Or maybe a lot more than that, and I just didn't look long enough.
On the YouTube, I think we're going through the process of putting everything in one spot. Mm-hmm. So it'll grow eventually when we get our shit together.
Yeah, so go check that out, guys. Make sure that you are showing some support there. Show some love. Because I'm sure is going to be some excellent stuff.
You did say that earlier that this was the end of season 1 for The Gods We Know. So you're planning on bringing that show back at some point in the future, but you kind of also hinted that someone else might be running it instead of you.
Yeah, Ty is going to take the reins, and he's Hitchhiker of the Mind. I'm sure there's some overlay where people know him. Actually, he's also in the Mind of the Martyr.
Okay.
But he's going to be taking the reins, and I've talked to him a little bit about, what do you want to do? Like, as it was actually more so like, how do you want me to hand this off to you? Because, like, they're about to kill a big bad. I don't want to just, like, because I think a couple of the characters are staying the same, so it's like, do I give them, like, these overpowered items? And then you just have to deal with it? I don't want to do that to you. And I don't necessarily maybe want to put it in some direction that you don't want to take it. So we had, like, that conversation, and basically he's like, I'm just going to pick up whatever down. I'm like, all right. Fuck.
All right, weird clowns it is. Let's go.
I kind of answered my follow-up question. I was going to ask if you're going to be playing in it then, if you're going to be joining your players.
I will be joining the players. I don't have a character yet, but I'll figure it out at some point.
Yeah, they killed my character, who was the big bad guy.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to be coming in at level 9 or 10, which I don't know if I've even played a character at that level yet.
Yeah,
you're just going to pull one of your NPCs with the crazy names, right? Like, nope.
Yeah.
Jack the retail salesman at the general shop is now a level 9 ranger. Here you go.
I'll be playing the cult leader that they thought they murdered in the last episode. He survived his tumble off the mountain.
Surprise, I'm back. Hey, we're friends now.
Yeah, we were all just a big old misunderstanding. We could be fine.
Man, that could be a whole conversation in itself there, trying to bring in a character up mid-game.
Cool. I really, really want someone to do that someday, but it'll never happen, I don't think. But I totally want that to happen. Like,
play a bad guy, turn good guy?
Yeah, just...
No party would ever accept it. Our characters would kill him.
No, they would. They kill him.
Our players kill friendly people. It's just like, hey.
Oh, yeah, we kill the friendly NPCs half the time. We don't like them enough. Like,
they're just like coming, give you nice stuff and giving you compliments, but the compliment wasn't just right. Overboard. And you're like, what? Okay.
Well, I've been kicking around the idea of playing an evil character and like how to do that without being an asshole. And I guess I just came to the conclusion that the evil character still has to have help along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they just do some things on the side that are not seen by the party.
Yep. We had a really good episode about that early on.
With DM Chuck, our guest from last week. His first appearance on Wisdom Check was we talked about playing evil characters. You can find that on YouTube somewhere if you look hard enough.
There was a great quote in that one too about you don't brush your teeth evil.
Yep.
Yeah, menacingly saying
basically, Chuck's theory was that you're not really evil all the time. You're only occasionally really evil. The rest of the time, you're just probably a pretty likable person.
Yeah. Well, there was a show that ended a few years back. I don't know why they ended it, but called Crit Juice, and one of the characters was evil, and it was more of just a kind of chaotic evil because he was just more or less a bad guy to people outside of the party. Mm-hmm. And was friendly towards the party because, you do need even bad guys need help.
That's right,
absolutely.
I always, whenever we have that discussion, I think I said it in the episode with Chuck. That I always go back to the Deadpool 2 Colossus quote.
Yeah,
there's 5 defining moments that separate a hero and a villain. He's like, there's 5 moments. That's how it works.
Fantastic. Yeah, that was a fun conversation. We should revisit that again sometime. But yes, we are down to our last 5 minutes, and we want to make sure we get all the proper plugs in. So we want to put your link back out there. So I'll resubmit that to the chat. Bam. Make sure you guys are checking that out. Is there anything else you want to plug? Anything else that people need to know about?
I think I got everything covered. Yeah, be on the lookout for next month. We're doing a charity run for basically the whole month. I think everything's been casted already, but if I'm wrong, then come on and try and sign up for a game. See if you can get in. We've got, I think, 10 games to fill. So,
Nice.
But yeah, it's going towards a good foundation. Let me figure it out, though. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it was going to be my follow-up question there.
We're doing for 2, I guess people would choose whichever. It's RAIN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, and Earth Day Network. There's 2 very important charities.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, I mean, every bit helps, and we're hoping for a good run.
Yeah, be sure, to plug away on our Discord as well. Because we got tons of people kind of going through there, and we have a whole section for self-promotion and things, and we definitely like to help support, that in particular. So if you're in the chat right now and you don't know about our Discord, there's the link there in the chat. For those of you watching this later on YouTube, that'll be down in the description, as well as links to their content, our content, everybody's content. It's all over there. So it'll be good stuff for everyone to have. Yeah, let's see. Then that's probably our time for our plugs, the 6,000 things that come up for us.
All right. My best Micro Machine voice I can possibly do. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m., Cameron's back here for Bardic Knowledge, playing baseball. It's always kind of a little chaos around here on Tuesdays. I'm never quite sure what Cameron's going to do, but Cameron's back 8 p.m. tomorrow. He might be making music. He might be making air lasers. It's a barbell knowledge tomorrow. That's right. I forgot, because last week it was going to be, and they moved it back a week. So this week, Air Laser will be joining Cameron. They're going to be doing some physical fitness and exercising, so you can stop in, get yourself in shape, Cameron. Wednesday, 10 p.m., as we talked about earlier, it's Dark Secrets.
Nobody knows what that is.
We're just going to be playing a Roomba from the future, and I'm playing a talking car. It's Zoom and Broom. That's our characters. That's what we're playing. That's what we told our DM. We don't even know what the setting is, but
nope. Doesn't matter.
It's going to be a buddy cop film of a talking car and a Roomba, and we're going to go on adventures.
We're here to save the dinosaurs.
That's what happens when we get zero information about the setting before we're told to think about characters. This is what we come up with. You have to put the chains on us, or that's where we go. Thursday should be video game night. There's been some Grand Theft Auto 5 getting played by the guys.
I don't think it's happening again.
You think it's happening again?
No, Clint has put the boots down on that one.
Oh man,
It's hard online. It's Wild West.
It is.
Yeah. So
we'll play something. I'm not sure what it's going to be.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. So Thursday night should 9:00ish should be a video game of some sort getting played by us. Kind of rotating cast of which one of us show up every week, but we'll be playing something. Friday nights is a night off. Usually we heavily promote one of our mods, Air Laser. They usually play on Fridays. Definitely go check her out on her channel. Takes us into Saturday, and if I am correct, this Saturday is not Everstorm. We're still
correct.
Week.
Yeah,
we're still another week out.
The 10th, maybe.
Yep, the 10th. We're back on the 10th for Everstorm. We did miss a game session, so it's a really long break between sessions. Unfortunately, one game session had to get moved.
Sufficient time for me to completely forget my new character's voice.
Yeah, so that's a long there's a long break in there. We are, however, back this coming Sunday with my Zweihander game. We had to miss a session because of the hurricanes. 2 of my players were stuck down there in the hurricanes down south in the States and didn't have internet or electricity or anything else. So we did cancel a game session. We have moved it back to this Sunday. It'll be Chapter 7 of Horror in Huttenberg. All the King's Horses, all the King's Men. This group is going to do something you would have never thought you'd seen in a low fantasy tabletop RPG. They're going to attempt time travel.
That's right.
In order to save the world, this spooky group of bandits and criminals are going to go save the world via a time machine.
He thinks we're saving the world. Really, it's just the things caught up to us, and we're like, we got to get the fuck out of here.
They're just escaping all the chaos they've caused.
Yep.
So you can tune in 5 p.m. on Sunday and see that maybe go down. And that takes us to next week. Yeah.
I want to add one thing. I play in Curse of Strahd on Featherfall every other Sunday at 30 Pacific.
Nice. Big Tiger Man, I would love to answer that, but we are currently wrapping up. Hopefully somebody in the chat will have something with you there. Well, who's our guest next week, Dustin?
We just changed who our guest is, I think, for next week. Next week, our guest is going to be... the name back up here again.
I'd say you keep the character and just find a new game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes you have to do that. It's Janelle, I think I'm going to say this correctly, Jacques, who got a Kickstarter, actually, about her contribution. She is an old school player who has made a fair amount of contributions to the TTRPG community. And next week, tune in here to the Wisdom Check. You'll get to meet her and find out about her contributions and a Kickstarter that is actually involved about her that's going on that we're going to help promote next week. So
very cool.
Stop back in and you'll get to hear all about Janelle next week.
Awesome. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. So we're going to be looking for somebody to raid. And while Dustin's looking through the list of potential options and my voice squeaks for no apparent reason, I'll say thank you so very much for coming tonight, hanging out with us, Adam. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. It was a good conversation. I enjoyed it. Thank you to the chat. We appreciate you guys and keeping us busy over there, reading all your comments. Even if we don't answer everything that's in there, I'm reading them. Sometimes I respond, but mostly we just do it over here.
Great questions in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to stop in on our old buddy, the Liching Hour, who's playing some single-player card games tonight. So if you're not familiar with the Lich, go say hi to Lich, tell him TTKB sent you, and we will catch you guys on the flip side.
Awesome. See you over there, guys.